Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our general meeting for the PTSA. First, before we get started, I would just like to quickly introduce the board members. Myself, I'm Marianne Hillier. I am the president. Sherry Rose is the recording secretary. Peggy Ramsberger is our vice president of programs. Joy Lemke, who could not be here tonight, is our Vice President of Events, and Samantha Valentine is our treasurer for this year. Also on our board, of course, is Ms. Wilson, our principal, and Kelly Buckholt, who is our teacher liaison. Attending tonight is our special guest, Laura Hine, from the Pinellas County School Board. She will be speaking in a little while and answering any questions that you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting and let Ms. Wilson give a principal report to begin.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to go over just a few things. Please remember that progress reports went out last Friday, February 12th. So please make sure you have viewed those progress reports. If your child has a D or an F grade, please make sure you're reaching out to the teacher to set up a parent conference. Those teachers should be reaching out to you. However, don't wait on them. Please reach out to the teachers. And if you see any discrepancies where things are not being graded in a timely fashion, please reach out to me, administration, as soon as possible so we can rectify that situation for you. But definitely want you to please just stay on top of our students and making sure that they are progressing successfully here at Thurgood Marshall. And also, I know that there were questions about demerits, and last month, we had a short video, the parent meeting of the month. Some students talked about demerits. Again, they're not to punish children. It's kind of a warning to parents to say, hey, your child is not turning in assignments and we're getting concerned. It's kind of a warning. So just another way that we communicate to our parents to let them know that our children are not progressing as they should or not performing academically as they should. Also, in my call outs, I've definitely been talking about FSA, already speaking about it. Our FSA dates are already up on our website. And as I stated in the call out, anybody that's My PCS Online, the expectation is students will have to come on campus to take those assessments. And we are still in the progress. I know it's early, but we just want to get the information out there early so we can start to make those provisions. And we are definitely looking at our processes of how we're going to make that happen for our My PCS Online students. I do know that there's some hesitancies because I've had some parents reach out to me about the safety and making sure that their students are safe on campus with COVID and the concern. So we're still working on our process with that. It could be that we have the kids come on campus and be in their first period class with roughly about 22 students. But then again, it may look totally different. So we don't know what it's really going to look like, but we're still working on that. But we definitely wanted to start to put the word out there early to let parents know about FSA and that the students must take those assessments online. There was a question about opting out. There isn't an opt-out process for FSA. If you decide that you're going to keep your child home and they're not going to test, then they won't have those assessment scores for next year. And we just have to remember that those FSA scores help prepare us or place those students in their academic progression. So whatever we if we're putting them in advanced courses, we're going to be looking at their prior year's score on placing them. So it is definitely important, and it definitely impacts when you go to high school as well, because the high schools also look at those scores in placing students into their classroom. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about and clarify some things about FSA. Course selections, our students already participated in their course selections. Their course requests were due last Friday, and that was for our 6th and 7th graders. They were picking their elective courses for the next school year. You also have the opportunity to see, based on their FSA scores that they had 2 years ago, what classes they will be in. And contingent upon whatever they score on FSA, we will also adjust based on those new scores. I am thinking about and trying to figure out what our end of the year 8th grade activities will look like for this year. I do know that last year our students weren't able to participate in any activities. This year, what we're looking at is possibly a drive-through kind of celebration for our 8th graders. We probably won't have a dance unless, I mean, this thing really almost goes away. So, and I know my 8th grade students are disappointed in that, but I do want to just start having that conversation that we'll probably kind of have a parade or something. We'll pick a day and they'll get their little basket or something at the end. And maybe PTA will start talking about what we can put into that basket for those students as well. The email link for the credit parent meeting will be sent out as soon as we record this message and send it out. Then I will have that link, but it is the same exact link that we've been using every single month. It just puts everything into one place and it makes it convenient. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is our 38th Street drop off. That if you know any parents that use the car circle, you know anyone that is dropping off their students on 38th Street, if you could please help us keep it. It is a safety issue and I don't want anybody hurt, but we cannot drop kids off or pick kids up on 38th Street. We must utilize the car circle. And Ms. Hilliard, that is all I have for the principal's update.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I just want to let everyone know about some upcoming events and projects. I do tend to go pretty fast, so if you have a question, feel free to stop, or before we turn the meeting over to Laura, I will ask if anybody has any questions on any upcoming events or past activities of the PTA. First, Wednesday, February 24th is our monthly share night at Culver's at 1451 34th Street North. From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., Culver shares part of the proceeds with us. These share nights seem to be successful and will continue each month until May. So thanks to everybody who eats in, takes out, or drives through. PTSA and our community partner, Bay Borough Brewing, is planning a family day, share day in March for current and incoming families. There will be food and beverages for purchase and music and entertainment for everyone to enjoy, as well as the opportunity to meet with other parents and students. I do understand that during these times, some people are leery of attending these types of functions, but the facility is spacious and clean and has a large outdoor space. And we are working on the details to ensure a safe environment and make sure we are within the rules of the CDC guidelines. So look out for announcements regarding the event, but mark your calendars for March 27th in the afternoon, and that is a Saturday. Bay Borough Brewing will also be working with PTSA to host a teacher-only event in May. We have taken on 2 projects we will be working on for the remainder of the year. The first one is our outside classroom. It was originally donated by Home Depot, but has weathered a lot of storms. So it is in need of some sprucing up, repairs, and benches. At this time, it is primarily used by the theater teacher, but it is available to all the teachers, and we would get a lot more utilization with a facelift. And the second project is our fitness room. You guys know that we have a full functioning fitness room at the school, or at least it was at one time functioning. It needs some new equipment or repairs on existing equipment. Once overhauled, it will be accessible to both the students and teachers. We are looking for parents or someone you know to assist us with these projects and get them off the ground. Whether you have a business or know someone who does, to donate materials, time, money, or even general knowledge to help, it is appreciated. And please just contact me at mariannehillier@gmail.com with anything you can offer. We are starting to source agendas for the 21-22 school year. We will be offering advertising space to help offset with the cost. If you have a source, printing, or a business that you would like to advertise, please just let us know and use Thurgood Marshall PTSA at gmail.com for that information. um, we've also canceled our fundraiser that was scheduled for spring. We just felt that not having all the students back at school to orchestrate the event would have been very difficult. Our direct donation drive back in October and November was successful, but a little bit short of our goal. Continue to support the students, teachers, and the school programs. We need your help. Purchasing spirit gear, supporting our share nights, and volunteering for the upcoming projects are good ways that you can help us. But if you're able, we are asking that you make a donation to PTSA either by visiting Member Hub or mailing a check or dropping a check off made payable to PMFMS PTSA at the school. Any amount will help to see us through till the end of the year. Some of the parents have been asking me about our general meetings and when they are held. This is actually our third general meeting for the 2021 school year. Our first was held in the beginning of the year to vote on the budget, and the second was held in October. Being limited to only virtual meetings, we just went for 4 general meetings this year instead of 12 meetings that were held previously. Our next general meeting will be held in April, and it's going to be a very important meeting as we will be voting on our board members for the 2021-22 school year. 3 of our 5 board members will be leaving this year. Peggy Ramsberger, Sherry Rose, and Joy Lemke have all served on the board for the past 3 years. I'd like to thank you ladies and our past president, Teresa Parker, for keeping the PTSA at Thurgood alive and thriving. So in the next few weeks, you will be seeing posts, receiving emails, and hearing announcements asking for nominees for the 2021-22 PTSA board. All positions are open for nominees. At a minimum, we will need to fill 4 positions, which are the president, the vice president, recording secretary, and treasurer. You can nominate yourself or a friend. Current board members can also nominate themselves to stay on for a second year. If you have any questions or are curious about what the board members do and what the PTSA board does, you can reach out to me personally or any other board member. We're happy to answer your questions. Having said that, I would like to just take a minute and remind you of what PTA is. PTA is the oldest and largest child advocacy association in America. PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. The #1 reason to be involved in PTA is to benefit your child, and in doing so, you're also helping the school. Now I just want to tell you some things the PTSA has been doing since the beginning of the year. I've been a little behind in getting messages to Ms. Wilson to put out in her weekly call out. So on January 15th, the PTSA welcomed the teachers back to school, and we celebrated the end of midterm testing with lunch provided by Side Door Deli. It was a great success, and the teachers and staffs were very appreciative. For Valentine's Day, we showed some love to our teachers by filling the lounge with treats for them to enjoy all day. We also supplied chocolates for the super secret hidden candy dish for all the teachers and staff to enjoy all year. We have also reimbursed 4 teachers since January for school supplies. PTSA donated waters, mints, and mints for students during midterm testing. We have donated snacks and drinks for movie night for PBIS students, as well as providing gift cards and prizes for their raffles and store. We've also supported the school with rewarding the students who completed the winter challenge. And provided by our treasurer, Samantha, who knew she was going to be in her car tonight, not able to give this report. I'm just going to do a quick recap of our funds. Our current bank balance is $10,680.54. During the month of January, we spent $2,007.44 and received in $444.44. If you are a PTA member and would like to see the treasurer's report, please email us at thurgoodmarshallptsa@gmail.com and make the request, and we will gladly provide the full report for you. If anyone has any questions or any business you would like to address with the PTSA, you can ask them now. Otherwise, I'll be turning the meeting over to Laura Hine. Are there any questions? Okay, I'd like to introduce Laura Hine. She is a newly elected school board member in Pinellas County. And go ahead and take the floor, Laura.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I'm really happy to be here. I have known Mary Ann for a number of years. Our children were in elementary school together, and I had the great pleasure of serving on PTA with her at our elementary school. And I'll tell you something, Mary Ann knows how to feed people. So if you need more of that at your school, just call on Mary Ann. I'm a parent in Pinellas County Schools also, and involved in our PTA too. So please don't worry about background noise or pets or all of that kind of thing. This is what our PTA meetings look like too. And hi, Jasmine, we're on the PTA together. And Miss Bachholt, we were on the PTA together. So I know a number of you on here, which is great to see you. Miss Wilson, hello. We haven't met before. It's nice to meet you. I've heard amazing things about your school. So I do know a number of you, but I feel like maybe I should introduce myself just a bit. Laura Hine. I was just elected in November to the school board and took that seat there. And my path to that has really been as a actively engaged parent in our schools for the last handful of years. And maybe a number of you know this already, but I'm from Tampa, across the bridge there. I went to public schools growing up. This was back when we didn't have, magnet, fundamental, the lottery system, but our schools were busing for integration, and I was, bused across our district for integration, and I think that that's an important part of my history. I then went to the U.S. Naval Academy for college in Annapolis and studied aerospace engineering. I served as an officer in the Navy for 6 years. Out on ships. And when I came back home to Tampa, I became a licensed general contractor, actually. And one of the first projects I built was the Southwest Airlines terminal at Tampa Airport. So maybe a number of you have flown out of that. Construction is really interesting. It's so is the military, and they're actually quite similar. You have all these subject matter experts. So you have somebody who's a specialist in plumbing, in electrical, in concrete, in structural engineering, electrical engineering, all the different pieces who have to come together and be part of a team with a common mission and accomplish that mission within a budget, within a schedule, and hopefully have a great time doing it and provide a great product in the end, which is actually very similar to what it's like on a ship or, different missions in the military as well. So with construction, my latest project with that, I was the project director of the James Museum of Western and Wildlife Art, responsible for architecture and construction. And then after the museum opened about a year later, Tom James invited me to be the executive director of the museum. So I'm now a museum director. You never know where your professional life is going to take you. But where does education come in? And, when my first child was born, it was 10 years ago. So I have a fourth grader and a first grader, 10 and 6 years old. I'm a mature mom. When my first child was born, I couldn't believe the number of people that asked me where he was going to go to school. I mean, I knew that was a popular question for college, maybe, but kindergarten. And thus was my introduction to the quagmire that is this system of the choice system, which is amazing and provides great opportunities at a lot of really great schools. But I had to learn a lot about it. And so what happened for us is I wound up I would drive by regularly our neighborhood school, which is called North Shore Elementary. no one I knew wasn't really on their list. You know, there was those few lists, those few schools that people would talk about, well, you should apply for this, this, and this, but if you don't get in, you know. But I decided to say, well, why not? You know, this is our school. It's right here. I was always sent to whatever my zoned school was, even if I was bused across the county for it. So it, you know, it turns out North Shore was a Title I letter grade D school. And I visited the school, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And the teachers like Miss Buckle were alive to the world and love their kids, and the students were wonderful, and it was just a wonderful place. And thus began my instruction in, you know, the school grading system, you know, public schools in general and whatnot. And I got very involved. So you probably learn more about that, but I would just say that my activity and my engagement in public education comes from being involved really through PTA, through volunteering on task forces up at the county. You know, it's one thing, you know, we have the program about, if, you know, see something, say something, excuse me, I stutter. Well, I'm kind of a, if you see something, then do something person. So I've just gotten engaged in a number of topics. Now I could, you know, and there are so many things we could talk about tonight. And what I'd really like to know are the kinds of things that interest you. So whether it's school safety, the school grading system, testing, equity, the Bridging the Gap plan, funding, teacher pay, teacher support, school autonomy, you know, there are so many things that we could talk about when it comes to education. You know, I have come to believe that public education is the fundamental element for a successful, thriving democracy. And so that's why I'm passionate about it and engaged and involved, and want to work my tail off to make it as great as I can for every single student and every single teacher in school. So I mostly want to hear what your questions and thoughts and priorities are, so that I can work towards those and maybe answer some things, or just share some thoughts with you, or take some notes and get back with you, or find out ways that you can maybe get involved as well. But I thought I would share about two different topics tonight, just some thoughts on these two different topics. And I also wanted to share, and I'm sorry, I didn't like set up in advance to share a slide. So I'm just going to show this, our recent graduation rates that were published. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is the graduation rates from 2013 to 2020. So you can see a rather upward trajectory. The blue line is all students, the gray line is our Hispanic students, and the orange line is our Black students. So you can see that all students, it's risen 20% in those 7 years. And in our Black students, it's risen almost 30% in those 7 years. And we're now the top county in the state when it comes to graduation rate. And we can definitely talk about any sort of details and questions. If you want details around this, I'm happy to talk about them. But what I do want to say, and what I do think this tells us, is that Pinellas County Schools has been working really hard and has been on an upward trajectory, excuse me. A lot of this, I think, is a result of the Bridging the Gap plan that was built, that was, you know, really about closing the gap between Black and non-Black students. And we can talk about all the different categories in the Bridging the Gap plan, the recent report that came out on it, the work that's being done there. It's benefiting all students, you know, across the board. But this is good news. There is good news that comes out all the time. It's been amazing to me how much good news there is in Pinellas County Schools and in education. I know a lot of times we get into like a cyclone effect of what all the problems are and everything, but I just want to encourage everybody. I mean, if you're involved in PTA, then I mean, you're somebody who wants to help and participate, and I just want to encourage you to also share the good news. It's okay to say we have great schools. I feel like we've gotten into this habit of saying we don't have good schools. And yes, there are things we need to do better. Yes, absolutely. Let's certainly do that. Let's also say that we have great schools and we have great teachers and we're doing good things. So I just wanted to share that with you. There's a lot of other things to share out there as well. And then the two topics I wanted to cover, and by the way, I'm happy to talk COVID. I'm happy to talk schools opening, policies, all those kinds of things. If you want to ask questions around that later, I don't want to be tone deaf and not mention that. But we can talk about that. The two topics that I kind of want to mention to y'all tonight was one around the parent engagement at the middle school and high school level, and then the other around supporting our teachers. So the parent engagement at the middle school, high school level, I mentioned to you a little while ago that I have 2 elementary school students. So what do I know about that? Well, what I can tell you is after a school board meeting recently, the person who's kind of the head of high school, if you will, came up to talk with me afterwards. And she said, you know, I heard about all that work you did at your school around parent engagement. And I think that's great. It's an elementary school. She said, it's easy in elementary school. Everybody wants to volunteer in elementary school. Their kids are cute. They need to help them tie their shoes. They get to bake cookies, you know, all of these great things. She said, where we really need parent engagement is in middle school and high school. And she says, because at those ages, just because we don't have to tie their shoes doesn't mean that we don't need to be there. And if anything, we might need to be there and be engaged a little bit more in those ages. And then she also talked about the, you know, yes, the impact on the students and the families, and then also on teachers and administrators. They still at those ages, you know, want to feel that support and engagement from their families as well. So you all are here, so you're already engaging, which is amazing, but I just wanted to kind of carry on her language with that. I mean, we know that to build thriving communities, they have to be listening communities, and every one of them's unique. You know, each school has its own unique questions, challenges, interests, issues. It's not all, you know, policy that's just handed down, and it even changes, right? I mean, a school's life and character and, you know, changes over the years. I would imagine a middle school, with it only being 3 years, you have a regular new people. And so it's even more, you know, how do you create that community feeling within those 3 years? And I would say, considering what we know about adolescence and what's happening in those years, it's even more important. I think, you know, and there are a number of things, I mean, you all, many of you on here have long experience in this, but whether it's you bring up topics that are of interest to you and you bring in speakers that can address those particular topics, you know, or whatever it is. And obviously we've got to get through this COVID piece, right? I mean, it's really hard to create community, even though we have to keep trying the best we can. But I just wanted to encourage that around the middle school age. Something that's been on my mind for a couple of years, but I haven't taken the steps towards, but I want to now, is around creating something, whether it's called community conversations or something like that, but where we can get our school populations and you know, whether it's multiple middle schools or multiple, whatever it is, I don't know, but where we focus on mental health, where we focus on mental health issues. And I think what an agenda for something like that could look like is, I think it'd be really interesting to know, what is the Pinellas County Schools kind of K-12 curriculum, if you will, when it comes to, you know, what are the different lessons that are being taught, whether it's through our guidance counselors or through our health classes, you know, when are certain topics talked about. I think parents knowing about this, knowing that these conversations are happening in our classrooms, and I'm sure stuff is already kind of sent home, but bringing people together and being able to have a conversation about it can help also destigmatize the discussion around mental health. You know, we know that over the last 2 decades, we've seen the increase in adolescent anxiety, depression, suicide. There are real numbers, real impacts since most of us were children. So being able to talk about these things as a community, and then bringing in, whether it's bringing in Johns Hopkins or bringing in a health provider, talk about the real rates and impacts, and then also what we can do, what kind of tools, what kind of language we can use. How do we talk about these things at home? Give parents, help us, right? I mean, parenting doesn't come with like a handbook of how to handle all these different conversations, probably still figuring out how to talk about sex with our kids, or how to talk about, I'm sorry if there's any kids on here, by the way, sorry. But, talking about, so how do we talk about these mental health issues that are huge and have a significant impact? Help, right? Help us. And what kinds of signs, what kinds of symptoms can we be looking for? And also, what are things, whether your parents have young children, middle, older children, what are some of the things we can be doing in the home to help? Whether it's, access to, games or this or that, or are they having friends, or, what are the different considerations? So I just feel like I know that I would love to be in a community conversation with other friends and families and hear from professionals about these things and be able to dialogue about it. So that's something that's on my mind on the mental health side. I want to make you guys aware. I don't know if you've heard about the Let's Talk app. It isn't even, I don't even know that it's a separate app, but it's on the Pinellas County Schools website. But anybody can go into Let's Talk and submit a question into any category. They've got all these different categories around whether it's academics or mental health or athletics, or it even has it broken down by grades. There's almost too many categories, I would say. I was like confused figuring out how many different categories, but you can write a question about anything and you will get an answer back. The average response time is about 2 hours. I was just hearing yesterday that there was a student who's an English learner, a senior in high school, who wrote on the Let's Talk app in like 3 different areas that she was concerned that she wasn't going to graduate, that she wasn't going to meet the requirements for graduation, and what is she going to do? And within a couple of hours, they had worked on a plan and even talked with her, and this and that. So it is read, it is responded to, and it's also something that can be used on the see something, say something side. So if you or one of your students has a concern about another student or friend or family, you can also submit those kinds of concerns. And we've gotten those. The county has gotten those and responded to them and made a difference by getting licensed mental health counselors on the phone with people who are having challenges. So I just want to encourage the communication on that if it hasn't happened already. But back to engagement in the middle school, I think I heard Marianne say that there's 3 board positions coming up. So that's one way you could get involved. So that's that piece. Thank you for listening. The second thing I kind of wanted to mention tonight was about supporting our teachers. I read a number of education periodicals or newsletters and such, and there are so many around the need to support our teachers right now. Just it's a tough time, and yes, it's a tough time on all of us. I think that last March, when schools closed and didn't reopen, I feel like it was a miracle that the county turned around and got some kind of program, whether you loved it or not. They got something up within a week, a week later. That's amazing. And then having to learn that and figure it out. I think one of the things I know that a number of families that I've talked to over those couple of months, people realize the value of teachers. Not everybody can be a teacher. Teaching is a profession, and it is a profession to be respected, to be admired, to be remunerated, to be given the kind of professional training and development and support, and really from us, from families to, to really be given thanks and support. So I just want to mention that I think we've all realized how important our teachers are if we didn't know before. And then you can imagine with opening schools, what that was like for our teachers and having to figure out the in-person, virtual, simultaneous, and, our teachers, our administrators, because it went down to the school level, having to figure out who was going to do what and how. And, whatever your experience of that is in your home with your students, is certainly valid. Also to think about it from the teacher's perspective and on a daily basis in school, not having the parent support or not having the usual things that they have, the lunches and, all the different gatherings, even the gatherings with students, right? They aren't having their celebrations and things like that. So it's tough. And so I guess I just want to encourage you and all of us, challenge all of us to think how we can let our teachers know that they're appreciated, because I think it goes a long way right now. And I think for every school it's different. Only your community can really determine how to best do that, whether it's simple notes of thanks, encouraging your parents and friends to do a simple note of thanks, or telling them they're doing a great job, or whatever else it is. But I think it's an important time, because a lot of them have really gone above and beyond and are starting to feel just like we all are. Everyone has COVID fatigue, right? We're all really looking forward to getting to the other side of this at some point, and we're not quite there yet. What is that tipping point? When is that tipping point? So I just wanted to encourage you. They're there every day, with our students, helping them learn. Something really affecting, and I know there's a lot of thoughts around schools opening and closing and a variety of things, but one thing that was really affecting, that was shared with me, was when schools closed and we were going to the virtual option, and they had a drive-through where families could drive up to pick up their computers for their kids to bring home to be able to do the virtual school. It was shared with me that, this woman drove up, she had like 3 kids in the car, she's getting 1 computer, and she looks at the person and she's just in tears, and she just says, I'm going to be in tears, sorry. And she just says, I don't know how to do this. Will you help me? Will you come to my house and help me? Obviously we can't do that, but it just goes to show the importance, how much people care about their children getting a good education. So I just want to be appreciative, as appreciative as we can, of our teachers. I also, if anybody has the governor's phone number and you could call him and tell him to make our teachers a priority on vaccinations, I would appreciate that, because I absolutely believe that they should be. So any advocacy around that point, I would mention as well. Gosh, so I would like to hear your questions. I know we're running short on time. I'm curious, there was this PCS Connects initiative where it was like giving all 4th through 9th graders computers. I'm wondering how that's gone, but I'm also wondering, there was this switch to pre-AP. You guys are just starting that at Thurgood Marshall this year. I'm wondering how that's going, if anyone has any experience with that, or we don't have to talk about that. Let me, if you don't mind, I'd love to hear any of y'all's questions or what topics are on your mind. It'd be great.
Hey, Laura, it's Jessica. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Oops, I can't click on my video. I just want to give a shout out to Principal Wilson and Assistant Principal Slifkin. My first year at Thurgood, it's been amazing. Even though we're my PS online, they set our schedule up awesome. They set my son up great. And a big shout out to Miss Harris in the office. She has been instrumental with questions, answers, communication. She set us up with the computer and, just makes life smooth during all these difficult times. And you would never know the pressure she's under. So kudos to you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Man, I love hearing that. That's great. That's great. I see Ms. Wilson's happy too.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. One is, well, the first one is, what are the responsibilities of the school board?
So our school board has operational and fiduciary oversight of the entire school system, of the entire Pinellas County school system. And just to put that in perspective for you, Pinellas County Schools has about 100,000 students. I'm not sure how many students there are at Thurgood, maybe 900-ish.
1,075, I think, somewhere around there.
About 1,000, somewhere around there.
A little over 1,000.
A little over that. So there's 100,000 students in all of Pinellas County schools. And we're the largest employer in all of Pinellas County. We have 14,000 employees. About half of those are instructional staff or teachers, and then the other half. And we are the largest landholder when it comes to buildings, properties, et cetera. The budget for Pinellas County Schools is about $1.6 billion a year. That's a B. And those are all taxpayer resources. And so when you elect somebody to be on the school board, you are electing them to basically receive all the briefings, read all the notes, participate in meetings and workshops, ask the questions, listen to the community, ask those questions, and just ask the kind of questions and advocate for the kinds of things that our community needs and that we believe we need for a thriving school system. There are 7 members on the school board, 7 elected. Of those 7, 4 of them are geographically zoned. And then 3 of them are at large, so represent the whole district. I'm actually an at-large member. And you're the zoned member for Thurgood Marshall area is Caprice Edmond, who was also recently elected. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And then my second one is, if students are not comfortable going to school, then why are they required to come in and take the FSA test?
Yeah. Well, so the executive order was just issued from our governor on Monday about this. And yes, and unfortunately, our school board does not have the authority to override that executive order. We can ask a lot of questions, which is being asked, which those questions are being asked, but we can't override it. At this point, there is the requirement, but what they've done is they actually haven't extended the time, by the way, they've just shifted it. So it's still only 2 weeks, it's just later. And they want to be able to allow for extended hours, maybe weekends, and look at the different ways of how can they make students students and families who don't feel comfortable coming in person, how can we get them, how can we help them be the most comfortable coming in person? But I agree, if we were able to take the FSA practice online, how come we couldn't take the regular FSA online? At this point, that's the directive, which is a frustrating thing to, but that's the government. That's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I also want to mention, I think there's something interesting to note. There are pathways to opting out of taking the test. As Ms. Wilson mentioned, there are some risks associated with that in the sense of being able to place for next year and, all those kinds of things. The other thing is that if less than 95% of the students take the FSA, there are actually repercussions for the district, which is interesting. And I'm trying to learn more about those as well.
Hi, Laura, it's Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine.
Great meeting, by the way. I wanted to circle back to in the beginning, you were talking about like communications and as far as like middle schools and that go. And I think for me, that was like one of my biggest fears about middle school. First of all, middle school is a whole new experience for us because we came from New York and my girls were going to a private school that went all the way up to 8th grade. So we came here, they went to North Shore. Well, Jasmine went to North Shore for a year and then I had to learn all about middle school. And that was the same thing that people I felt like everybody kept saying to me, well, wait till they go to middle school. You're not really gonna know much of what's going on, there. So, you kind of got to get used to that. And I feel like the total opposite has happened. I'm also a parent. I am big on emails if I have a concern. And I think that parents just need to get past that fear or, of that feeling that they're not going to know their children's teachers or they're not going to know what's going on in their school. I've never once sent an email, whether it was to a teacher or to Miss Wilson or Miss Lifkin, that has not received a response. So I think that communication is definitely there. You just have to put yourself out there and just really, get involved if you really want to know what's going on, because your child's day is so long at school that, of course, when you ask them how was your day, it's like good, great, and then there's not much going on there. So teachers are definitely available, and I definitely think that they welcome emails. So just wanted to say that I'm having a really good experience with that.
Man, I love hearing that, Jasmine. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because I think that kind of experience needs to be shared more. I think parents have anxiety about middle school, maybe even more than the kids do. And because we're also leaving our friend groups, right? Here in elementary school, we've made our friend groups. And now because of the selection and the different ways you can enter middle school, it's not like we all travel together, like maybe used to kids would go to like similar schools. So now are we going to make new friends? And what's that going to be like? What are the parents going to, what are the teachers going to be like? So, and I think, and the only way is to get involved, right? Or to communicate. I feel like I totally agree with you. I feel like parents feel nervous about like writing or calling the teacher. They certainly feel nervous about calling the principal. I mean, it's like principal, But what they don't realize is when they talk to the principal, our principals are wonderful, Now you should always start with your teacher and work your way or whatnot. But I think my experience as well as yours is that they love to talk to us. They love to answer questions and participate and hear from us, And I will say too, if you ever need to, you can also write your school board. And I would suggest, if you are in support of any policies that are happening, if you are in support of things, I will tell you that a supportive email helps because you get plenty of unsupported emails. And so if there's something that, and also if you are having a challenge, certainly that also, but I will tell you that they are read and they are responded to as well. So I'm so glad you're having that experience, and thank you for sharing that. My son's in 4th grade, my oldest is in 4th grade, and I'm doing my best to not get too afraid of middle school myself. What other interests or questions or anything or things I should be aware of or you'd like to hear more about? You can't imagine. I will tell you, I am unbelievably impressed over the last few months when I've had a question of the staff, and the researched information that I get back is really impressive. And I although I kind of wonder if their like modus operandi is to give us so much information, we can't do anything. But it's just incredible. There is certainly information out there. So if there's something that you have a particular interest in, we're going to start a sustainability task force. So if sustainability is of particular interest to you, like I mentioned, we are the largest landholder. If you look at the number of buildings, the number of human beings, et cetera, waste, water, land, there are so many great things we can do around sustainability. We are going to start that and invite people who are interested to participate in that. We're also looking at sort of enrichments after school or before school, or what are we offering in our various schools around enrichments? How can we expand those? How can we make sure they're funded, make sure that access to funds are understood? We know that participating in enrichments helps kids' brains and lights shine. It isn't just extra math drills or extra science drills. Sometimes it is participation, and whether it's music, art, sports, all the different things, language. So just making sure there's access to enrichments are there. But if you have an interest, there's a way to be involved in it. I also want to say, PTA is a great organization, just like Mary Ann mentioned earlier. It is extremely longstanding. The Pinellas County Council PTA is a serious group of people. They go up to Tallahassee. If you're interested in the legislative side, which if you want to talk more about that, we can too. So there are ways, if you have certain things that you're interested to be involved in, and PTA is certainly one of them. And So is your school.
What is Pinellas County doing? When you say sustainability, I assume you're talking about the environment. What is Pinellas County Schools doing as far as, curbing plastic waste and, for sustainability, period.
So-
That's it.
Yeah, you know what I think? I think there have been a number of things that have been put in place over the years, but that haven't been communicated, that haven't been written down and communicated in a way that we know them. You know, one of them, for instance, is I know that they've looked at the lunch trays and lunch materials and asked the question, because if you're throwing away styrofoam trays, so we had these styrofoam trays, you're talking thousands a day. Thousands, right? So, I mean, all of those different pieces, when you look at the volume and look at the size, so I can't give you specific examples right now, but I want to be able to. I know that Clint Herbick, who's the associate superintendent for operations, buildings, that stuff. I know that this has been an interest of his. He definitely has looked at the energy side a lot. We've done really well on the energy side over the last several years. But I also when I talked to him about this task force recently, he started listing all of the things, and I said, Clint, you don't have to do this by yourself. We have professionals, right, who aren't in the school system, but who would engage with you, who will serve on a task force. We'll do the green schools. There's a whole certification you can get around being green schools and these different standards and whatnot. But I would like for us to be able to show these are the things we're doing in these areas and be able to kind of more systematically communicated, excuse me. I mean, we have a parent at our school who has a PhD in biology, and his specialty is sustainability. And so he first started looking at what would it take to do an LED conversion at our school? How much would it cost? How long would the payback be, right? Well, extrapolate that over 158 buildings. That's significant, right? And now it's a significant investment. You'd probably have to phase it out, but if it has a reasonable payback period and it's the right thing to do for the environment. So I think I'm glad it's going to be codified in a way. And I should hopefully have a better answer for you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Laura, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm sure all the parents, not just the ones that are in this meeting, but the ones that will be watching it the upcoming week, are going to appreciate everything they've learned from you today.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for having me, Mary Ann. Ms. Wilson, again, it's nice to meet you. How wonderful to hear the things we heard tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. And please be in touch. Ms. Wilson, you too, and your staff, please. I want to hear from people. I need to. So thank you.
And if I could just say thank you, Ms. Hines, for taking your time out to do this for us. So I definitely thank you for that. Definitely thank our parents and our staff members. And it was wonderful to hear positive things, because like Ms. Hines said, we get so many negative that sometimes we forget the positive. So we definitely, I thank you for that. You almost brought me to tears. And definitely my wonderful leader student over here, Miss Mohammed. Why don't you unmute yourself and give everybody your name and what grade, so they'll look for you in the future, because you're going to do big things.
My name is Nazira Muhammad, and I'm in 7th grade.
Wonderful student.
Thank
She's our
you.
vice president of student council as well. So just wonderful. So I definitely, Dad, thank you for letting her, Dad and Mom, thank you for letting her participate today. I think this is a great experience, because we can't change things unless we're at the table. And it's not always just the adults making decisions. We need to have the voice of our students. And I believe in growing the voices. I think Thurgood is where we nourish that and plant those seeds so they have their authentic, true voice, so they can make powerful, positive impacts in our world, because that's what we need. So I do definitely thank you. And I please take up Ms. Hillier on, we're trying to put a video together for our upcoming 6th grade. It could be about PTA. It could be about your experience, like what Ms. King shared. it will be wonderful because, as you know, coming in as a 6th grade parent, your anxieties, thank you, Ms. Hill, you're also for comprising that list, because that was very beneficial as well, and helping to put together a driving force of what information we would like to put out to our new 6th graders coming up. So if there's anything you guys get with her, a quick, short 30-second video of your experience as a 6th grader, what were your anxieties and how you alleviated those anxieties, that would be wonderful for us. Wonderful, because I just want to share those things with our upcoming parents. And I believe that we're always growing. So I'm always reinventing myself. And I looked at this year, I know that this year coming in was like no other year. And I really didn't know how to start. I've never done this before, but I was so accustomed to having my 6th graders come on campus early, and to not have that, I felt like it was a disconnect. But Ms. King, you verified and connected. That's why these parent meetings are I wouldn't let them go, because I feel like this is the way that we stay connected. And also those Monday call outs, that's the way that we stay connected. And I don't want anybody to feel disconnected from our community. So, and I'm going to continue that. So we don't know what next year's opening is going to look like. So that's why I want to put something together virtually so we can present to our families to reassure them as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And again, if anybody has anything they want to add, they can directly get with me and I will help them get it to Ms. Wilson. And if there's no other questions, that will conclude our meeting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good to see
Bye.
you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yeah.
How many people on there?